This is the final chapter of Volume 2 of Aliens and the Earth War Saga. This is issue 404. Love this cover. Absolutely beautiful color palette. And it just kind of really talks about what we've been going over. If you haven't been following along, make sure to pause this video, check out the playlist, which I'll make sure the link somewhere here or at the end, one of the two, where General Spears uses fire to control the aliens. And it kind of becomes a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Ironic ending. So with that said, let's dive in. Of course, I can open the book. Script, Mark Verheiden. Art, Dennis Beauvais. Layout assistant, Roger Castleman. Lettering, David Jackson. Print date, May 1990. Last issue. Hicks and Spears' second in command plan a coup against General Spears because they realize he is no longer a military officer. He is an obsessed idealist using the aliens to try to fight back against the infestation on Earth. He sees himself essentially as a god. And whenever one of his grunts steps out of line, they go missing. 99.9% of the time, they go in the Queen's chambers. You know what happens there. So last issue, we followed that, along with Newt's connection to Butler and this little girl on Earth named Amy through Earth transmissions on third base. The book ended with Hicks attempting the coup. The Queen is set free. Third base is now overrun. We open focusing on Butler and what happened to him in Volume 1 when they thought that they were on the aliens' home planet and he got ripped in half. And he realized, I almost forgot to tell you, that he realized that he was an android and not a human. He says, they gave us names, faces, emotions. They should have told us. My conscience memory is like a story with no beginning. One moment, there is nothing. The next, I am whole. So we see that he was actually having like a fever-esque dream. We see the first time him and Newt make love. We see the battle on the aliens' planet. I had no reason to question him. None of us did. Come on, Butler, move it! My squad was synthesized for the alien mission. We were socialized and domesticated to improve compatibility with our human shipmates. What was the genesis of my love? Was it the last vestige of some programmer's sick comic erotic joke? Newt didn't know. Neither of us knew. And we just see him ripping his cables and fluids out because he is just conflicted, because now we see this man, part machine, who has free will, and he doesn't know how to process it. He begins to push Newt away. She says, I love you. He pushes her away and he goes, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to deal with this. But Newt begins to distance herself. Last issue, she said, I thought I loved him. I thought I loved the things that showed that he was the human side of him. And then she just does a 180, which kind of bugs me. But for the story, I understand. But she goes, I let it touch me. So we cut back to the scene from last issue. And she goes, what could possibly explain my pain? And Newt finally understood the horror of our lie. I miss when you could read comics like this. And yes, Claremont said that it does feel, kind of like a soapboxy, but it makes this page, these people that do not exist, it makes you care about them. It gives them depth. That is storytelling. Why do these people matter? We just see the pain and the betrayal that Butler is feeling. Everything I believed in had been taken from me. I wasn't human. I wasn't anything. Newt was all I had left. They were going to take her from me as well. So as I stated, third base gets overrun by the aliens. Spears comes back from a terraforming plant. If you want to know more about the terraforming station, check out the last review. We bust in, shooting, fire. And again, I love how we see Butler's point of view through the CRT monitor aesthetic. Spears, my children understand the flame. There's a purity to the alien that I find refreshing. There's nothing certain about their motives. Newt, you're completely mad. Your men should have killed you months ago. My men believe in me. They trust me. Do you really think your pathetic treason would succeed? So, Butler sees what's happening and he goes, Newt. He realizes he has to do something. So as people are being ripped apart, he crawls, because he doesn't have legs anymore, he crawls across this base for the woman he loves. He says, I found the alien's progression perversely fascinating. Man uses his machines to terraform hostile worlds, to create an environment amenable to human life. The aliens need no machines. The creatures ignored me. Perhaps I wasn't used as a threat. Or maybe I didn't share the organic scent of Spears' men. And we see these guys in the hallways. Where's Spears? Miserable bastard left us to die. As I headed the secondary control room, the sounds of struggle faded, replaced by the liquid hiss of alien life. Bodies were everywhere. Stark remnants of the aliens' reproductive fury, freed from the confines of the general's breeding chambers. The parasites multiplied with remarkable speed. This world belonged to them. Spears thought he had taught the aliens the meaning of fear. They had merely discovered the virtue of patience. Remember this. He says she, meaning the queen, allowed me into her nest. A courtesy, perhaps, or maybe just acknowledgement of her power. I was no threat to her. There were no threats left on this barren world. And now, in terms of visual storytelling, where you see an art team and a writing team, the creative team working in cohesion. Now, at first, when Butler is kind of in a meditative state, all his colors are blue, comes out into the carnage, aliens watching him through the grates, people dying, thick reds, deep shadows. And as he crawls into the secondary control room, he reflects again. We go back to blue. That's an excellent way to use a color palette. Now, Hicks, Powell, Newt, they know that they're going to be fed to the aliens for the coup that they tried to rise. Unfortunately, Powell tries to save them, but at a cost, which leads to Newt and Hicks boarding Spears' ship. But here's what kind of hurts. Hicks says that's one of the emergency pressure seals. Insurance against hull breach before they terraformed an atmosphere onto the rock. Seals just don't drop. Someone must have triggered it. Newt says, my God, Butler, we've got to find him. Hicks, military mind. He's an android, a machine. Forget him. The cargo ship's our only chance. So Butler watches the woman he loves take off, leaving him stranded on third base. Now, as Spears takes off, a lot of the crew members that wouldn't go along with the coup said, Spears is going to watch out for us. He's already told us that he cares about us and he's going to feed us as long as we're loyal. He takes off with just the alien. That filthy son of a bitch. He's leaving us behind. Stand clear. The engines. A crew would only complicate matters. There are times when a leader is forced to make difficult decisions. Decisions for the sake of the mission. We see those same people that said that Spears would watch for him burned alive by the ship's engines. Now, Hicks and Newt don't know what to do. They basically jumped on the ship for survival. Spears locks himself in the control center, and Hicks does everything he can think of, from trying to hack it, ram the door. He just ends up shooting it. And it says, Spears, sequestered in his alloy cocoon, he ignored us, lost in his visions of war and glory. The stimulants he relied on fed his paranoia. Finally, logic exhausted, Hicks resorted to raw, frustrated instinct. That the cockpit was designed to withstand explosive decompression meant nothing to him. Hicks's fury no longer had anything to do with mutiny. It was about hatred, vengeance. Now, the reason, as we've been going through these comics, that I say that please read the novelizations by Steve Perry is because the comics are great. It set the mood, set the tone. And I say that to say this. Here, as they get closer to Earth, Hicks says we're going to just grab an escape ship and go to Gateway Station. And I keep wanting to call her Billy because, as I've said, in the novelizations, when they reprinted and this became Extended Universe, Newt becomes Billy, Hicks becomes Wilkes, and Butler becomes Bueller. So if you hear me say Billy, I apologize. But Newt basically says, what if he, sabotaged the escape pods? Hicks says, chances are Spears sabotaged along with everything else. Funny thing is, I just don't give a damn anymore. And then there's a last thoughtful moment as we see the ship going down to Earth. Spears says, I watched them disappear in the darkness. I let them go. I wanted them to go. Now, the idea of kind of giving him this sort of sequestered kind of paranoia, it works for the comic. Now we're going to circle back to what I was talking about reading the novelizations. What happens is they got it to get to the escape pods, but they're afraid that Spears is going to shoot them down. And so it becomes a kind of a tense standoff, and Hicks uses his poker face and says, let us take one of the escape pods, or we're going to blow up all the aliens back here. I found a way to set detonation bombs in certain places, so you're going to be too busy trying to find them instead of trying to shake us off. And so there comes an uneasy alliance, and that's when they take off in the pod. And Spears says to himself, for a moment, rage overtook me, and I wanted to wrap my hands around him and shake him to death. But then it passed, and I saluted him. And then it says, I watched them disappear in the darkness. I let them go. I wanted them to go. So if you do the novelizations, remember who's who and that things have changed. But think of it as kind of like a compendium that adds more depth to the comics. Now, as Spears lands on Earth, he goes, the aliens is the only one I can trust. Their loyalty transcends human treachery. So like how he starts putting on his military whites and lighting one of his cigars. Together we will form a new world. I will lead man and alien alike toward a new glory, a new beginning, a better tomorrow. Some, of course, will perish in the terrible struggle ahead. I know that. I respect it, but in the end, we will all prevail. My boys would make us proud again. And I just love the splash page. As he comes down off the ramp, the Xenomorphs pouring out with the glowing numbered militarized numbers on his head. Time has come to prove yourselves, to show your commanding officer all you have learned. We must give no quarter. The others, your enemy, they must be destroyed. Attack. This alien just lingers. I gave you a direct order. Slashes it in half. Acid blood destroys it. The old guard must be overthrown. They must be defeated. And remember how I said the alien's the only thing I can trust. I see now. She's trying to turn you against me. And as the Queen Alien emerges from the ship, my God, you used me. You wanted your precious children back, and I brought them to you. No words, no ceremony. And then again, in the last two books, I kind of talked about the inversion of like religion, or should I say Christianity. Here, I love the inversion of like, I think it's World War II. I can't remember the iconic photo of the men hoisting the U.S. flag up in the middle of a battlefield. I can't remember what war that was. But when you think of that visual, he lets his flamethrower go and burns the alien. And the American flag begins to fall in the rain, set on fire with the Xenomorph. Newt says they tracked Spear's ship to Earth, and then there was nothing. His revolution ended before it had a chance to begin. The alien wouldn't allow it. Very poignant, very ironic. And then, as the book comes to an end, Newt and Hicks end up on Gateway Station. And Newt says something to the extent of, oh, she sees another broadcast. That's right. That's an important part. But then we see a shadowed woman say, reminds me of another time. Years ago, another little girl lost on a world swarming with the alien bastards. You see Newt smile. Ripley. And I just love how they just strap all these different weapons, kind of giving her the look from Aliens, but with all these extra just doodads, very heavy metal, 2000 AD-esque style. She goes, I'm tired of watching. It's time to finish it. But that, guys, that's where Alien Earth War picks up. And we have gone over that. So like I said, I will leave the playlist in continuity order so you can watch it from the beginning. To me, this was important to go over from the fact that I see people saying, we want more alien films. What can happen from here, etc., so forth. And I think what's really chapping my hide the most about them is how every time they make a show, all the way to Aliens Earth, they're like, oh, this takes umpteen years before Alien. And then Romulus, this takes place umpteen years between Alien and Aliens. And I think what really works my hide the most is I'm waiting for them. And I've said this before in another review, but I'll say it again. I'm waiting for someone, like I'm waiting for them to just start filling in all these gaps to the point where they're going to say, this happens in the time from when Ripley woke up on the Nostromo out of cryo sleep and feeds Jones or changes his litter box. And that's the time span that we're taking place in. Who cares? Mark Verheiden created a blueprint that Fox should have followed instead of the travesty that was Alien 3. Because then they could have made umpteen movies following the Earth War all the way, and then they could have set it aside and then did Genocide, Hive, Stronghold, Labyrinth. And then, down the road, if they wanted to kind of start, and then another thing, getting off track, when you go back to the original Steve Perry Aliens versus Predator Prey, and then I can't remember who wrote the next one. I think it's called War or something. But anyway, that's where we meet Machiko Noguchi, the female human predator. In the second book, she's working off-world for the Chigusa Corporation. And she actually references about the alien infestation on Earth and that she was glad that she wasn't there. They could do all this without having to keep saying, oh, this is between Ripley. This is between. Who cares? My only major two gripes with the Earth War is how Newt's relationship with Butler switches. And the only thing that I wish that they would have referenced. So, volume one, they kind of give you flashes of how what happened the next post Sulaco, same with Newt. And then when we get in the Earth War, we get Ripley's backstory of how she did not arrive on Earth. It would have been nice if somewhere in these 3 volumes that they did, at least mention, like Hicks saying, they brought me in because I'm military, and they wouldn't mind wipe me as long as they kept my secrecy clause going. But Newt was a civilian, so they mind wiped her and put her in an asylum. It would have been interesting to just say something like, and the bishop, Android Bishop, because he was an older model and unrepaired, they trashed him or something, just to let us know what happened to Bishop. That just would have been nice. Other than that, this to me is Alien canon, always will be. And so with that said, guys, we have gone over the first 3 volumes and the story of the Earth War. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you get your action figures and comics. Pick up this series as well as the novelizations. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Xenomorph bell next subscribe, that way as I can tip a little content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel. I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. Additionally, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to help support the channel, I have also left a PayPal tip dart link down in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video. Either way, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.